Young Democratic Socialist 2015 Toward an Intersectional Left took place on February 13 to 15, 2015 in New York City. Over 100 students from DSA and YDS chapters attended, including students from new chapters. Democratic Socialists believe that both society and the economy should be run democratically to meet human needs, not to make profits for a few. This conference would not have been possible without support from the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation here in New York and CUNY's Murphy Institute, which provided the wonderful venue space. Also thank the dozens of supporters that donated housing and funds to helping students travel and stay in New York, as well as the students and young adults that put time into putting together great panels and workshops that made the event a success. Every single speaker at the conference was a member of DSA talking about their own experiences and insights, and we're very proud of this as a member-run conference.
I remember in an environmental studies class in high school, it was when I first began my hatred of big business and realizing how exploitive it could be. And I didn't get a name to it until I came to college and met other YDSers and saw that their beliefs lined up with mine.
I like the ideas of socialism, definitely, and I've been reading up on communism, but I feel like for me it's a little too early to decide whether I'm deeply committed. A lot of political parties don't really focus on the issues that I take to heart, like, for example, the disenfranchisement of African Americans in America. And I like how the last speaker, especially decided to touch on that.
I didn't even know that there were really many socialist movements in the United States until I started looking online, and then I found DSA, and that was the organization that I liked the most. Yeah, after that I decided that it would be really cool to start a chapter of YDS in my high school.
Yeah, I was drawn in. All the facts were very enlightening, like Louis said. Yeah, just the combination of the hard-boiled facts that are things we often don't like to think about, maybe even. But the way they deliver that, in addition, also kind of like, you know, as a community, if we work together, we can do something. That hope also comes along with it. It really got me pumped, so to speak, for this condition.
So I grew up in a very conservative family, an anti-union, conservative, reactionary family in Queens, New York, actually. And I graduated high school in 2009, and I decided to go to college, which was not exactly encouraged. I was thinking about becoming an electrician and everything, and I decided to go to college. And my freshman year in college, we were in the middle of the recession, and I had a course on Marxism. And I went into the course thinking this was, you know, totally BS. I wouldn't agree with any of this. It was just liberal professors, you know, spewing propaganda. And I left the course and I was a socialist. I was very convinced, and from that point on, I became very politically active. I'd never really been politically active before. And I mean, I'm sure you've talked to other socialists. You just read and you learn more about the way things work in this country and in the world, and you learn more and more about how working people are just not empowered, and we do not have a say in what goes on, and most of our lives are not determined by sort of democratic processes and things like this, but determined by what, you know, the 1% or the capitalists are, you know, what they want.
I've always considered myself very much a liberal, very much, you know, on the left, on most, if not all, issues. But I didn't know too much about democratic socialism, so I decided to come to a few meetings to see what it was about. And yeah, I would say that I certainly do now consider myself a socialist.
I was lucky enough to meet a DSA organizer and saw them doing work that did resonate with me and that did touch on, you know, things that really had to do with my lived experience as, you know, a person who has lived in poverty, as a working class person. But then I was handed this book. The book was called Caliban and the Witch. It's by a socialist feminist, an Italian socialist feminist named Silvia Federici. And she's a feminist Marxist who in that book walks through a lot of very central Marxist topics and analytical tools, but from a feminist perspective, and kind of, challenges Marx a little and says, oh, like maybe you could have gone a little farther here, or maybe, I need to help you out a little bit with this. And it really gave me a language that I had never had before for thinking about my personal experiences. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm a socialist. There are other people like me. I'm not just like, this crazy person who's experiencing things that other people have never experienced before, or who's just, interpreting, her life all wrong, So, I mean, for me, there was like no resistance. Once I heard the term and saw it applied in a meaningful way for me, I was just like, this is what I am. This is clear to me now.
Should we be building an electoral machine or coalition to train socialists to run for office?
The majority of our work, the majority of work of other socialists is not electoral. It's not the raison d'etre, as you'd say in French, the reason of being that we exist. We exist to make other socialists. I mean, I think the most important thing that DSA and groups I disagree with is to create and train people to be socialists, because socialists are the most critical thinkers and fighters in movements for social change. We can't do it alone, but we provide a lot of intersectional analysis like we went over yesterday. We provide a critique of capitalism and connect it to other issues.
I decided that I wanted to be an organized socialist when I turned 18 because I didn't want to just jump into anything in high school that could be something fleeting, and I knew I was wise enough to know as high schoolers we go through trends, so I waited. My dad really liked Michael Harrington, who was the founder of DSA, and they had worked together briefly because my father is a Chilean refugee, and so DSA has been helpful with solidarity work to bring back Chilean democracy. So it was a great line that says everyone should start, at least we should strive to have everyone have an equal base as much as possible. And so that means like working not only in terms of economic injustice, but also racial injustice, other forms of oppression, especially these days where we see around the gay and lesbian community, who aren't allowed to reach their full potential, even in economic issues, because they're not afforded the same protection as other groups, such as straights or whites. And so that's what socialists are trying to achieve on those three angles. It's like political democracy, economic democracy, and kind of equality of opportunity to the extent that's possible.
It's important to provide more nuance to the arguments that we're giving, right? Because when we have these kind of race-centered critiques of mass incarceration, one, it's easy for neoliberal entities to kind of take that over, say, oh, okay, you have we see this replicates itself through several movements that are backed by identity politics. We see in a feminist movement where they're like, okay, you have a problem with the way that women are treated in corporations, you have a problem with economic inequality, you can just lean in. That's all you need to do, right? If you have a problem with the way that the LGBTQ community is treated, that's all right. Okay, we'll host parades that are sponsored by alcohol companies, where oftentimes people that are actually in the LGBTQ community are harassed by outsiders. It's farcical. I mean, you're laughing, but it's true. This is what neoliberalism does. So it's important that whenever we are critiquing these systems that, yes, affect blacks and Latinos particularly, we also point to critique of capitalism.
After a lot of financial troubles while I was down at the University of Missouri, I had to come back and take a semester to work to gain money, to make back money for tuition and whatnot, housing. So while I was up here, I was like, these are issues that I've been caring about, and so I started researching socialism. After a while, I was like, I really feel like I should do something about this, you know what I mean? And so I basically Googled socialist organizations in the city of Chicago, and DSA was the first one that popped up. So I emailed Bill Barkley and Peg Strobel, who are some DSA members out of Chicago, and they invited me to an event, and it's just kind of been, going on from there.
So the federal government's wonderful interest in protecting the welfare of being of Black and Latino people and fighting drugs, fighting the drug trade. But we know since the 40s, there's been numerous congressional reports about this. The CIA is involved in drug trafficking all throughout the world. This started in the 40s in Italy, in post-World War II Italy, working with the mob to prevent the communists from getting control. And when I was in China during the Civil War, working with the nationalists who were huge. They controlled the Golden Triangle in Southeast Asia. CIA had a large role in that, and of course in Central America in the 70s and 80s with the Contras. So we can see there's an obvious hypocrisy.
The right always talks about the left saying we want equal outcomes. No, we just want equal opportunity. Because that's a false lie that's said that exists in this society, that the American dream, everybody can prosper when that's clearly not happening. You have schools being underfunded, shut down, short on staff, 30 kids in the classroom. Meanwhile, we got charter schools, giving tests every year. Martin Luther King said, when you question why there are 40 million poor people in this country, you question capitalism. And we're questioning capitalism. We're offering a better plan for humanity.
Whoever decides what the game is about decides who gets in the game. And I think that's a really important quote to keep in mind when you're thinking about political participation and how to engage more people. Whoever decides what the game is about decides who gets in the game. We have a system in which the Democrats and the Republicans vie for the votes of upper middle class people and respond almost exclusively to the demands of upper middle class people and wealthy people. And I don't think it's any surprise that in a system like that, working class people and people from oppressed communities would not participate in electoral politics.